to be able to get to know where our band is going to pass. Right?
Yes.
So can I request Team Kole to take us through?
What we are going to do, we are going to take a Pythagorean theory of dimension 5, 3, 5, 4, 3, or 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So we assume.
It's not an assumption, we are doing.
We are doing.
This
Actually,
is practical.
we are now doing this. Yeah. So this is the, let's assume we are taking this one to be the angle which we are supposed to make it at 90, since our line is
our basis of measurement.
Yeah, it's going to do that.
Our garden starts from there, where that peg is.
Now, since we take this one to be the lower dimension, let's assume this one. We take this one like 3, and actually the wider side is going to be the other one. Yeah. So that we make a triangle, like we are using the other in the square.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this one in that side. So we are going to make this 3 feet.
Yeah.
Then you make it 5 feet that side.
Yeah. If it reaches 5, 8. Then we are 8. At 8 now. At 8 now. Sika. At 8. Come.
Over to 8.
Okay,
Yes.
that is 8.
This is 8. Come this way.
That is 8. So that means we are going to take this one from here. And actually now, right now, from here you can make a straight line.
Straight line.
By putting your string from here, and you just stretch it that side.
Stretch it that
so
side.
when it reaches that side, that one is already at 9.
Alex.
Then from the other side again, you make the same measurement.
The same measurement.
So like this kind of arrangement should be at every edge of the garden.
Okay.
And we are doing that to ensure that what we have inside the plot is the measurement of the 1,000 meters square. Otherwise, it is possible to assume that you have 1,000 meters square when you actually have 80 or 800 or 90. So we have to ensure that we have the right measurements of the field. Why do we ensure the right measurements? The plant population inside will be determined by how big your garden is. So if you have 500 meters square and you just assume it was the 1,000 meters square, the yield will wrongly be computed. Are we together?
Yes.
So now from when you have more than 2 points, you can stretch and follow, and you're sure you have a straight.
Well, the planting ropes, the string. Ring.
Okay.
Because you are going to subtract 1.
Okay.
No, this side you make 1.
Yes.
This side.
Come.
Someone hold that peg. So
You hold the peg.
1 meter.
Margaret, bring this side.
So that is why I say, if you are going to make 50, you make it, you have to stretch up to 1 and you do that
All our
1. So this is already our 1 meter for the band. The other one.
So when you're measuring your
this is the
plot
band.
size, your 1,000 meters square, this is not included.
The bands are not.
Okay?
The bands are not included.
So when we are measuring our garden, we shall begin from this point
Yes.
and come inside. Okay, now we are going to do the actual banding.
Banding.
But a band should be constructed facing where you have to scoop the soil from. So the more raised your band becomes.
Okay.
Okay? Don't ask me where we are going to get the 2 feet high. It is all here. Iwinyo?
Uganda, the land of sunshine. Breathtaking, stunning sights, incredibly extensive large greenery. Variety of wild animals and birds. A wide range of luxury holiday facilities. Diverse, rich culture.
Welcome to Coffee Production Tips, brought to you by Uganda Coffee Development Authority. Uganda
midday at 1 is the hottest part of the what? The day. So it will burn here. This part will be burnt and it activates the branch formation. So the branches will start from here, and then you will pick either 2 or 3 depending on the size of the what? The plant. And while this one goes on, you can take 2, and then afterwards when they have come, like here this size, you remove the rest down, then you put over this stick. So it will be 1, 2 and 3. Sometimes they make 4 depending on the size of the plant.
Farmers are encouraged to adopt good agricultural practices to get high yields, good prices and better income from coffee. These tips are brought to Uganda Coffee Development Authority.
Lamprey should start preparing their seed beds at the onset of rains, and then they should allow the seed bed to rest for at least 21 days to enable rotting of the grasses and decomposition. That will also contribute to manure and contribute to improved soil fertility of the bed, and also enhancing proper water infiltration in the soil. When the seed bed is done so well, germination is uniform and the crops are able to come out with uniformity and vigor. So for that very reason, we do a 2 plowings and a fine seed bed.
2 seeds per plant. Let me say from line to line, these are 75 centimeters.
Good.
Huh? Then here, those are 60 centimeters. Oh.
Yeah.
So you make some space for time, and then you start marking somewhere.
Yes.
Get a marker.
Where's
Get
the
a
marker?
marker.
Where's the marker? Sorry. Thank you.
Mark them. You can tie. So you have to mark them and you tie later. Mark and tie. That is enough. You go to another one. Just go stretch it like that.
Do it like this. Sorry.
No, just stretch your head.
Wait a moment. Do it like this.
Yeah.
So let's do the planting now. We begin with which crop? Maize.
Maize.
The famous maize. Why it emerged as both cash and food crop in most of the districts. Are we together?
Yes.
So don't put sorghum, don't put millet, don't put rice on the bands once you have maize in the garden. Strive not to plant anything taller than what is in the main crop. For those of you from Utorogo and other slanting areas, make sure we plant across the slope.
Okay. Good.
If we have started from this corner like this, on our second line, we should maintain a similar arrangement.
Yeah.
See what has happened in the hole? They will still throw, especially advise the plant like that. When you're passing through the farmer's field, you can actually tell that this farmer has planted. In most cases, we have our good birds that are very clever. You hole like this, and you leave this kind of ditch. You get it? You're already exposing the seed to something else. So we should struggle and strive to make sure that our holes are flat covered. So we have planted maize. Are we together?
Yes.
What we are looking at was basically agronomy. And in the field, we emphasized that all the crops be planted in lines. Planting in lines meaning following the right spacing. So for example, the spacing for maize is 75 centimeters between lines and 60 centimeters between holes. That is when one is planting at a rate of 2 seeds per hole. For the beans, we are using a spacing of 50 centimeters by 10 centimeters. That is 50 centimeters between seeds or do furrows and drill the seeds. The distance between the furrows is 30 centimeters and we drill. Then the fertilizers, because most farmers claim their soils have been reduced in terms of soil fertility and different nutrients depending on which crop one is targeting. That means there is grain pulse NPK for maize, for beans, for rice, and etc. and etc. What we are looking at is especially the K component, the potassium component, that helps the crops to tolerate drought, to withstand the stress, and also be able to improve on fruiting and make sure that the crops are farmed to reduce on lodging or falling of the crops. We usually tell our farmers that weeding begins immediately after planting. However, that notwithstanding, there are several methods of managing weeds. One, farmers can use their culture means, looking at crop rotation. Others can slash, others can do furrowing. All those are culture methods, and each community has their own ways of culture managing the weeds. But when we come to science, when we come to extension, we are adding on to what farmers know. So we come in with different options in addition to what the farmers know. For maize, we are using herbicides, both pre-emergence herbicides and post-emergence herbicides. Pre-emergence crop of the maize in this case, and germination of the weeds themselves. The pre-emergence herbicides will only kill the seeds of the weeds before they germinate. Whereas if a farmer is not able to use pre-emergence herbicides, they can apply the herbicide every season. We are going to promote a herbicide called Maximus. Maximus is both pre and post-emergence, but we do recommend the farmers to apply it at post-emergence to ensure that the weeds are killed effectively. Seed selection is an important practice that every farmer should do, irrespective of whether you're using your own home saved seed or whether you have bought seed from a seed company or an input shop. At whichever case, we need to ensure that we sort out the seeds. By sorting out the seeds, we are removing the broken seeds, we are removing the discarded seeds, we are removing seeds with the smallest size to ensure that we remain with the uniform seed that will be able to germinate at the same time and vigorously. The bigger the grain or the seed, the more the vigor that it will come out with. So we do encourage that farmers sort out the seed to ensure that we have uniform germination and with vigorous growth. When we go to crops like rice and millet, those crops are in most cases associated with some other grains that later on turn to be weeds. We have heard of Eleusin indica, a very notorious weed for the cereals, rice and millet. If not well sorted, it is very hard to do away with those weeds in the rice garden. So sorting of the seeds is at all costs very important to a farmer. Spacing, when we go to agronomy, it is actually very key. When you rightly space your crops, you are allowing the crops to get enough light. You are avoiding competition for light, nutrients and water and all the other inputs required. You are helping yourself achieve the optimum plant population that should be in the garden. Because very many times we've seen people plow chunks of land, but at the end of it all what comes out is just like 5-10 bags, when someone would be getting 20-30 bags. But the reasons have always been improper spacing that is usually resulting into low plant population in the field. So we do encourage the farmers to correctly follow the spacing. Yes, they say it's tedious, laborious. When the spacing is right, weeding becomes easier, spraying becomes easier, applying fertilizers becomes easier. It makes every other proceeding activities simpler than it was before. Climate change is real and we are already experiencing it in Uganda, and very many things have happened to our farmers and to our farming communities. an indicator that the climate has actually changed. As Sasaka Global 2000, we are trying our level best to ensure that farmers remain producing despite the changes in climate. We have come up with what we call a climate smart village model as a means of reaching to farmers and showcasing some of the technologies and practices that they can employ to ensure that productivity goes on irrespective of the changes in climate. So in a climate smart village, we have an intensified practice of improved technologies. One of them being the use of improved crop varieties. Research has come out with varieties that are tolerant to harsh weather. And this time, we are encouraging our communities to really adopt those drought-tolerant varieties. A case in point is Longa 10H, a variety of maize. It is very good and tolerant to drought stress. Fortune 5, another good one. Longa 5, which is very good in quality protein maize. It is also a very good variety and not very much affected by climate change. When we go into the field, we have a number of practices. One of them being fertilizer use. We believe that when you use fertilizers, you are enhancing fast growth of whatever you have planted. So the plant is able to escape or withstand the harsh conditions. Whether you use organic or inorganic, what is important is to enhance fast growth of the crop and also make it able to resist any kind of stress. Mulching is one activity or practice that we encourage farmers to do, especially the vegetable farmers, but also people with large farms of bananas and coffee can go for mulching. So when you mulch, you are able to retain the little moisture content in the soil for a longer time. You have seen us do ridging, making those small furrows into the field. Those furrows act as water catchments when it rains. They can actually hold the rain of one shower for up to 3 to 4 weeks. So when farmers do ridging, they are able to have their fields maintained with some good moisture for a prolonged period of time compared to those ones that do not do ridging. You've seen bands around, and from the demo where we were training our extension workers, the bands are very good for soil and water conservation. They reduce erosion and there is no escape of the nutrients from the field. So that is equally another good practice when it comes to climate smart agriculture. In some areas we do water harvesting. Water harvesting, we do encourage the farmers to dig ponds. Then there are specific I call them tarpaulins or papers, but we call them dam liners in that language, that can help hold the water for a period of even up to 50 years. So through water harvesting, people are able to trap the water after it rains, and then they are able to use that water when it is a dry season. Small scale irrigation is one other technology we are bringing to our farmers, and we do encourage their small scale irrigation equipments like the treadle pumps, so their backyard gardens of vegetables which can be sustainable during the dry season.
Amazina Ndiayebare Margaret Rwebyambu, woman member of parliament ahabwambara district. Ninsindika message ahari abantu mwena mwihangomu na munonga abantu bambara district. Turiyo mu bwire bube munonga obwendwara ya corona. Amaka gaitu, ebichweka byaitu, abanyabuzare n'abanyamukago, ensi yone choramirirwe abantu nibafa buri izoba habwo burwire bwa corona. Oburwire bwa corona obu no buhurota ngu bwakukwata. No hurorushuija omubiri, amaraka ohurra nigakwatana ningashi nigazimba nigashasha, ojiro rukorro oyisya kubi obumwohurrombero gwona gwaboramani obwo noba watandika kurra obubonero obw'akakooko aka covid-19 ninga coronavirus nk'uko abantu bingi barukuketa mbwenu oburwaire obu kuwakubuhurra wahurra signs ezo ninga obubonero obu okakora ki ekyokubanza n'okujwara akakookora akankaka akumukureeba aka mu making sure ngo burushaho akaro nyowe nakaihaho ahabwokuba ndihanga hari ahundi almost hino ndisho muntu ariho so nico nakayiraho kandi n'okugamba ngo message rije yo kurungi namba ya kabiri bantu mwe munabo mu ngaro tugaruke hari enyuma tunabo mu ngaro na sabuni burushaho ahabwokuba kusheka enyindo twabatanabire mu ngaro akakooko nogarukoza kwekwata ushanga wakakwasire ekindi twegendesereza kwekwata enyindo kwekwata amisho omukanwa n'ebindi turebe ngo nitwetantara okukwata omu bicweka ebyo okushitama ahagati y'abantu hariho distance ya mitazi 2 ninga shokureba ngo nitushitama twenaganagire twaba twinahi tushitami jezaho rebe ngo watunga omubazi waterwa kakatu kuwakuba nobasa katunga abantu bingi bakatandika bakwanga kutera kakatu bakure bigambe ebi nebi konka nyaborawe kuwakutunga chansa kakatu hikari